the deep but invisible scar from abuse. When we talk about abuse, we often refer to the number of incidents that have occurred in a certain period of time, or the amount of people who have died at the hands of their abusers. We rarely talk about the usual scars from abuse. Abuse is more than these numbers. It means a lot more to those who suffer from it. Furthermore, not all people who are abused will appear in the statistics. There are false positives and false negatives. It is not often that we talk about bumps or bruises, and even less common for us to talk about the wounds that go unnoticed. It is not just the body that is injured. When you are in a situation of abuse, it is normal that there is a very serious mental damage that will need attention. We must begin to give a voice to this that is often silent. I am still amazed by the fact that there are people like us who are capable, with premeditated awareness and deliberation, of continuously and systematically harming others, especially when they have already converted the target to someone weak and very vulnerable. Maria Jose Rodriguez de Armenta. Post-traumatic stress syndrome in victims of abuse. When we talk about PTSD, we usually associate it with natural disasters, high-profile crime or the military. We don't often talk about it in the context of abuse, although it certainly applies here. PTSD involves re-experiencing the event, the turmoil and the failed attempt to forget it. These symptoms are often seen in victims of gender violence. Post-traumatic stress syndrome in this group has very specific characteristics. The person will relive the events. This causes them to constantly move on the edge and be distrustful, since the one who is harmful to them is a person who should support and protect them. The trauma gradually erodes the emotional health of the abused. It usually takes years for them to ask for help. In fact, they often stay with the aggressor to avoid more violence. Thus, the victim often experiences that there is no possible solution to their situation. They are taught helplessness and abandonment. Battered woman syndrome. The fact that they perceive that there is no solution to their situation, or the learned helplessness, can lead to battered woman syndrome. The woman adapts to her living situation and minimizes the pain. In addition, she also distorts reality, denies or diminishes the seriousness of the problem. In addition, she can change the way she perceives others and herself. She herself can deceive and idealize the addict. She may be convinced that he will stop hitting her because he loves her. In fact, she may excuse her behavior, blame herself for the situation, thinking that she deserves this treatment. Addiction, depression. A scar from abuse is that you often have low self-esteem. One is also usually isolated, which means one does not get social support or positive emotional reinforcement. All this weakens them even more, which can lead to depression. Depression again makes it difficult to make decisions and concentrate. It also creates a deterioration in work performance and an increase in uncertainty. The victim thus enters a vicious circle that makes it increasingly difficult to leave the abusive situation. Furthermore, depression has another consequence: suicide. In several studies, researchers observed that 29% of women who were admitted to the hospital to have attempted suicide were victims of abuse. In fact, the likelihood of suicide among battered women is 5 times higher than among the general population. The irrational desire for control, dominance and power over the other person is the greatest force that creates domestic violence between couples. Luis Rogers Marcos. Fear as a scar from abuse. As you can imagine, anxiety disorders are also more prevalent among abuse survivors. Aside from PTSD, those who have suffered abuse also have higher rates of phobias: agoraphobia, generalized anxiety disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. OCD seems to arise as an attempt to cope with the anxiety that emerges in such an unpredictable situation. Obsessive thoughts about the persuader appear along with obsessive behaviors designed to reduce the anxiety these thoughts generate. When faced with atrocities, we must choose a side. Silence encourages the executioner. The abuser exerts their power and forces over a victim in a way that is designed to destroy them, and they do it from the inside, as much as the outside. On the psychological level, a scar from abuse occurs on the abused person, which can have serious consequences. Therefore, it is important to be aware of these problems and give them a way out. Finding answers to the tough moments is therapeutic. We get an inseparable relationship with words from a young age. They help us tell stories, exchange opinions, classify things, find answers. Words even give form and content to our inner dialogue. A dialogue, which is typically symbolized as an angel and a devil in series and films. We can probably all remember the typical scene. The main character must choose between doing what he wants and what he thinks is right. Then the angel and the devil begin to exchange opinions. You know it's not right. Life has to be lived on the edge. What would they say if they saw you, etc. In our heads, in addition to using language, we also use words to create stories. We do this because reality often presents itself to us in the form of clues, as if we were detectives. It is us who must put the puzzle together, piece by piece. Anna's story. It's 7 in the morning and the alarm clock rings, as it does every morning. She turns it off, turns and waits for the next scheduled alarm in 5 minutes. It's the alarm that means she has to hurry. But which is better, having a calm morning or getting 5 more minutes of sleep? She thinks about everything she has to do during the day and buries her head under the pillow. She mentally searches for the next moment of peace and quiet and can't even find it during meals. The 5 minutes have passed and she springs up like a spring. She turns on autopilot and begins to perform her routine. She wakes up in the subway when a terrible explosion sends her flying through the air. 3 seconds pass and then she is unconscious again. 3 days pass. This time she is woken up by a machine that beeps constantly. Every beep proves the fact that her heart is still beating. After that moment, Anna will never be the same again. She will barely be able to sleep, and her attention will always be active and ready to act. Anna has learned that any insignificant moment can become crucial in a split second. It's as if the life we love also has disastrous cards up its sleeve for us. Anna doesn't understand her story. Why did it happen on the subway she takes every morning? Why didn't she get up earlier that day? Why didn't she die like some of the others who were there? These questions stick out in her mind, and she needs to find answers. These are gaps in her story that made her whole world suddenly become a place filled with hidden potential threats. Hidden behind innocent things. The world is no longer a controllable and predictable place. What does it matter? Everything can disappear in a second. Anna needs to heal. Anna doesn't just need to heal her physical wounds. She also needs to feel the warmth of safety again. A sense of security that won't return if she doesn't find answers to all the questions that haunt her. It won't come back if she can't complete the morning's story. She has to do it to understand that whatever caused it won't do it again. It's interesting, but superstition often has an unmanageable side in this way. Let's imagine that Anna remembers that day she got out of bed left foot first. She is not superstitious, but she makes a connection in her mind. A connection which is false and without logic, but which is absolutely fantastic for her. Anna understands that if she gets up on the right foot first, It will never happen again. In this way, she has turned something uncontrollable into something she can actually control. And this calms her down. She has found something she can do. It may not make any changes in her life, but is absolutely wonderful for her.